You know all those famous stories from the beginning of the Bible, right? Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, Noah's Ark? We've heard them a million times. But what if they aren't just separate, disconnected tales? What if they're actually all chapters in a single, massive, cosmic war for the very future of humanity? Well, let's dive into that hidden war, starting with the very first declaration. It all kicks off right here. In the very first book of the Bible, God makes this incredibly powerful, almost cryptic statement. Now, this isn't just some nice poetry. According to the framework we're exploring, this is it. This is the official declaration of war, and it sets the stage for a spiritual conflict that is going to rage for millennia. So to really get what's going on, we have to understand this one key idea, redemptive history. This is the concept that the Bible isn't just a collection of stories. It's one single cohesive drama. You can think of it like God's epic rescue mission for humanity, and the story of Satan's relentless, unending campaign to sabotage that mission at every single turn. Okay, so let's get into chapter 1 of this whole saga. This is where the battle lines are drawn and the two opposing sides are identified, right from the very start. Now, what's so fascinating here is how these two sides are defined. The lineage of the woman isn't just about one person. It refers to the entire messianic bloodline, the sacred channel through which a savior would eventually be born. And this makes Satan's objective brutally simple. Find that channel and destroy it. Cut the line, whatever it takes. So, the war is on, and the objective is crystal clear. Satan does not waste a single second. He launches his first direct assault on this lineage. And believe me, it is swift and it is deadly. You see, the sacred channel started with Adam, and it was meant to continue through his righteous son, Abel. Now, for Satan, the math here is pretty simple. If this line continues, it eventually leads to the one who's going to crush his head. So, Abel had to go. When you look at it this way, the first murder in history isn't just a sad story of sibling rivalry. It's the opening shot in a massive spiritual war, a calculated cosmic assassination attempt. And this right here perfectly illustrates the dynamic of this entire war. You've got this back and forth. Satan, working through Cain, strikes this devastating blow. Abel is killed, and bam, the lineage is broken. It looks like a huge win for evil. But God immediately counters. He provides a new son, Seth, whose name literally means substitute. And just like that, the chain is repaired, the lineage is restored. So Satan's first attempt at a direct knockout, it failed. The lineage proved to be a lot more resilient than he probably thought. So he pivots. He switches to a much more sinister, and for a while, a much more effective strategy. Instead of trying to break the chain from the outside, he's going to poison it from within. This new strategy was basically a campaign of corruption. The holy lineage, which the Bible calls the sons of God, started to mix and intermarry with the worldly lineage, the daughters of men. They were captivated by superficial beauty, and in the process, they slowly started to forget their core spiritual purpose. The very thing that made them holy in the first place was being watered down generation by generation. Now, this spiritual decay didn't just happen in a bubble. It had a catastrophic effect on the entire world. And it led to this dark age of absolute chaos, terror, and just unchecked violence. And here's how that collapse happened. It's a clear three-step process. First, you have the spiritual mixing, which weakens the moral fabric of society. Second, as humanity loses its spiritual connection, it's described as becoming just flesh. That divine spark is basically gone. And finally, this spiritual vacuum gets filled by raw, brutal violence with the rise of a new power. And that power was the Nephilim. You know, the name itself tells you a lot. It comes from a Hebrew word that means to fall. So these were the fallen ones, or maybe more accurately, those who cause others to fall. These weren't just giants. They were violent tyrants and warlords who completely dominated this new, lawless world. So, here's the bottom line. Satan's new strategy of corruption was working spectacularly. The world had become so completely depraved that the Bible uses this absolutely chilling phrase to describe it. This was a world totally consumed by evil, a world where it looked like Satan's final victory was pretty much guaranteed. Think about it. That sacred lineage, once a growing family, had been corrupted, diluted, and almost completely wiped out. The hope for all of humanity, God's entire rescue plan, had been whittled down to a single, fragile thread. Just one man and his family. So with his plan on the verge of total collapse and the world literally drowning in evil, God makes a final, desperate, and world-altering move. This was the climax of the first great battle in this cosmic war. But this created a terrifying problem. To cleanse the world of all its evil, God had to destroy it with the Great Flood. But if he destroyed everyone, he would also wipe out the last little piece of the messianic lineage. And doing that would hand Satan the exact victory he'd been fighting for all along. The solution was found in one man, Noah. As the 10th generation descendant of Adam, he was the last unbroken link in that sacred chain. God extends a special favor, what the text calls grace, to him, preserving the one thing that absolutely had to survive the coming judgment. And this is the insight that totally reframes the entire story of Noah's Ark. It's not just a cute children's story about a floating zoo or a simple disaster shelter. No, it was a divine vessel, and it was designed to carry the single most important thing in the world, God's promise of redemption, safely through the storm. The Ark, floating on those waters, was the ultimate symbol of victory in this stage of the war. So the lineage was saved. God's plan survived. But this was only one battle. The war would continue for thousands of years, through new empires, new kings, and all new strategies. Which leaves us with a crucial question. What was Satan going to do next?